Hi guys, it's Pete from Hikvision Solutions. This is a first in a series of videos that we're going to do on the cameras that we install for our customers, and today we're going to focus on the entry-level 5 megapixel POC camera from Hikvision. We'll look at what's in the box and then we're going to take it outside, we'll put it on our rig and we'll determine what the day and night footage looks like. So let's get started. So if we start off by having a quick look at what comes in the box, now I have a confession to make. On our test rig when we bought all these cameras, I threw away the box for this one, so I've had to dummy it with a colour view box. So this isn't actually the official box, the same as the 5 meg POC that we're reviewing today, but you will find that the box will be identical and the stuff inside it is pretty much the same, bar that this is a colour view box, and yeah, you get where I'm going. So we open the box and inside you will find the camera itself in some nice plastic wrapping. There's the camera. But what you also get inside the box is some screws. Now I don't use these screws at all, I would just suggest chucking them away and getting some decent red plugs and some decent screws from your local hardware shop. These strip really easily, and when they do strip they're a bugger to get out. It also comes with a drill template. Now I used to slag these drill templates off no end because I thought they were pretty useless, but it turns out that recently I had to eat my words because I forgot my marking tool for my drill template stuff. So I couldn't mark the holes using the Marksman or a Sharpie, and I had to grab one of these out of the van off the camera just to mark where the holes are so that I knew where to drill. But the idea behind it is that you peel this off, you stick it to the surface in which you're mounting the camera to, and then it gives you the drill points. So you know exactly where to drill and put your plugs into your wall. Obviously if you mounted this to a soffit, you could possibly use this, but it's more for brick walls. Now you've got to remember, if your cables are coming in from behind, you've got to cut out that little A circle thing in the middle. You've got to just put 2 small cuts in it, which allows the cable to feed in from behind and this to then sit over the top of the whole thing. Now if you're going to use a base for this camera, you're going to want to use a TR13 base. There is a universal base for this, but please, please, please don't use it. It's awful. I'll put a picture of it now. It looks terrible, it's chunky and it's thicker. But inside the base box, the base itself, and the neck, you can either feed the cables in from behind, or you can feed them in through the neck, depending on how you're mounting the camera. You'd only really use a base like this if you were mounting to a brick wall. If you were mounting to a soffit board where your cables are fed into a loft, or you're mounting to, well, plasterboard, so somewhere where the cables can feed in behind, you don't necessarily need to use one of these bases. The only time we've used these on soffits or plasterboard is if we need to just space the camera off a little bit, if there's a ridge we need to get round. So it's a TR13 base. Inside the TR13 base you get another drill template. So obviously if you're using a base, you don't use the drill template off the camera, you use the drill template off the base itself. It does come with fixtures and fittings. Again, chuck these away. Once they strip, you're drilling them out to get them out, and they strip really easily. They're made of probably Chinesium. These are the ones you need to keep. So these are the screws that attach the base to the actual camera itself, and you can't lose these because I can't find these for love nor money. They only tend to come with the bases. They're not a particular type of screw, although I might be corrected wrong in the comment section, but once you've lost them or you've dropped it off a ladder, you've got to find it because you can't attach the camera to the base without it. Now that we've looked at the camera and its base, what I'll do is I'll go outside, I'll attach the camera to our rig, we'll wire it into the recorder that we've got here in our office, and we'll get some day and night footage, and I'll check back with you guys in the morning. First things first, I've got to get the camera off the rig that's there already, which is a 4K colour view camera that was just watching over our vehicles that are parked at the shop overnight. I'll be doing a video about this camera in an upcoming episode, so stay tuned. It's a fantastic camera, that 4K colour view, probably the top of the range camera that Hikvision do. It's important to know that I wouldn't normally put a big waterproof box like this on a customer's house. In fact, I never would. You'd install the base for that camera, but with us doing videos on each individual camera that we install, I'd have to get each individual base for it, and it just wouldn't work. This camera uses coax cable, it's a POC camera. I'll touch on what POC and PoE are in an upcoming video so you guys understand a little bit more about the differences between them. And then it's just a case of configuring the camera so that it's running at 5 megapixel. I actually found inside the hidden menu for these cameras that it comes out of the box at 4 megapixel. You've got to activate the 5 megapixel function. And then I've just got to make sure that the record is set to continuous so that I've got some footage to grab off this recorder in the morning. Good morning. So about 12 hours has passed or ish since I was last here in the office, so we've now got some day and night footage off that 5 meg POC camera. We'll go over that soon. Just before we start, a bit of an apology. Yesterday I had the camera, the GoPro that I've got here, I had it on the wrong settings, so it means that the lights here in the office were really distorting the image. I'm sorry, I've tried to do my best in the edit, but you will see hopefully that this part of the video going forward is much better quality, much better 4K than the previous bit of the video. It's new to me, and apologies, but I do intend to improve on that. If you're new to this channel, if this is your first time watching, please do hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help us build more content on this channel. If you have a keen interest in the industry or you are an installer, this will be a great channel for you to get an opportunity to show your customers or just gauge for yourself how good some of these Hikvision cameras are and which ones you can install. Right, let's get going. So I've exported the footage off the recorder, I've put it onto USB stick and it's in my laptop, so I'll put that into the video editing software and I can show you the day and night footage. I thought this was a great opportunity just to do a quick recap, look at the spec sheet from Hikvision, and then we understand a little bit more about the specifications for the camera. So on the spec sheet, Hikvision tells us that it's a 5 megapixel unit. Now we already know that it's not a 5 megapixel unit out of the box, we have to activate that function within inside the secret menu. I will do a video about how to access that menu in a later video. It's just through the PTZ controls and enables you to go into the hidden menu for the Hik camera. The main things to look at on the spec sheet are obviously the megapixels, but also the frames per second. Now frames per second is quite important for cameras. I think megapixel sells cameras, but frames per second is actually what makes the camera good. And this camera will do 5 megapixels at 20 frames per second, 4 megapixels at 30 frames per second, and 1080p, which is your 2 megapixel at 30 frames per second as well. The only thing to look at on a spec sheet like this from Hikvision is things like the audio, but also the lens type. So this comes in a 2.8 or a 3.6mm lens. Now that means the angle of the lens is wider on a 2.8mm lens and narrower on a 3.6. So you'd use a 3.6 on the side of a house where you've got a wall and a thin alleyway with a gate, because you don't want a wide angle there where you just see more of the wall or more of the neighbour's property. But then again, on the front of the house, you probably want a 2.8mm lens where you get the absolute widest angle you can possible. So you get more of the driveway, the front of the garden and the road in front of the house. That's it really for the spec sheet. The only other thing on here to note is it outlines what bases you can use with the cameras. So we already know about the TR13 base, we know about the universal base. I would steer well away from that. I think it's a very, very ugly unit. But there's also a swan neck base. You wouldn't tend to use a swan neck base on a domestic property unless the customer specified that they want it. It's more for commercial when you want to bring the camera off away from a cladded steel building. So what I'll do now is I will load up the day footage, we'll take a quick look at that, and then we'll flick over to the night footage and we can compare both and have a general overview of what the camera and how it performs. So the day footage from the camera, it's of decent quality. We've got to remember that this is an entry-level camera for Hikvision. It's a sub 40, 50 quid camera. So you're not going to get all the bells and whistles. This isn't a flagship model from them, but there's still really good use of colour. The picture quality is quite clear. Objects move okay through the image. I mean, people who walk through the image don't jutter or stutter, but cars definitely do, and that comes down to that frames per second as well. This GoPro is filming at 30 frames per second, and if I move around, you can see it's fairly smooth and it's fairly fluent, whereas 10 frames less than that, which is what this is recording at, just shows that object moving and juttering a little bit more. But overall, not a bad image. You can still read things quite clearly. The sign writing on the front of our van and on the bin that's just next to our office is fairly visible, as well as the number plate as well, which is good. You're not going to capture number plates on the junction. That's just the nature of this camera. It's an entry-level camera, and I wouldn't expect it to be able to capture number plates off that junction. Hikvision makes specialised ANPR or number plate recognition cameras, so for an entry-level camera like this to do that, I just wouldn't expect it at all. But overall, I don't think it's a bad image. It's, you know, on the lower end, but it's adequate and it does what it needs to do. So let's pull up the night footage and see how much different that is at night. So we can see at night that the camera is now not in a colour image, it's in a black and white image, and that's because this is an infrared camera. Now, infrared is a type of technology where the camera will cast out an infrared light and the light will bounce back off objects back at the camera's lens, and that's what helps to create the image at night. That means that the number plate now is completely gone. But that's because the number plate is a reflective material, so the light that the camera is casting out is bouncing off that number plate back at the camera and just shows it as a white blur on the bottom bumper of our car. But overall, static images or static features within this video are adequate, you know, about average. You can still quite clearly make out the make of our car, the railings at the side where people walk and come into this area is all of great quality. The junction is a little bit on the grainy side. The objects and the cars moving through there are probably travelling faster than they would normally during the day, but that's just because there's less traffic, and they just judder and stutter through the images. Some of the cars that travel through that picture, you can work out makes and models, and some have signage that you may be able to differentiate what they are. Other things like the signage across the road on the Gentry Barbers, that's readable and visible. It's only really moving objects that tend to cause a bit of a blur or a bit of a stutter or stutter throughout the image. I think overall, like I say, as a sub 50 quid, even sub 40 quid camera, I don't think it's too bad. Entry level, yes, there are better cameras on the market, but if you're looking for something just to protect an entrance or an exit to a building, this camera will do that job. So there we have it, our review of the 5 megapixel POC camera from Hikvision. A decent little unit, nothing earth-shattering. Again, it's only a very, very basic camera, but if you've just got an entry or an exit to cover for the front or back of your house or even a commercial property, this camera will do what it says on the tin. It will just be a camera for you. I hope you found that review helpful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. In the next video, we're going to look at a 3K colour view from Hikvision. Again, a POC analog camera. So stick around and check that out. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you next time.